So you could have branded authority, you could have signaling, you could be popping through different channels, but if Google didn't have the content that was really well done, your stinking keywords wouldn't pull up, man.
Yeah. If you have some service you want to show up for and you have no mention of it on your website, they're going to look at you and say, they might, if they don't have anybody else, let's just say that you're in some market and it's some esoteric thing
They're
that
in
you
Puget,
do.
They're in San Pedro Island or something in Puget Sound or something, or whatever it is. And
it's a roofing related thing, and you're the only roofer there with a decent website. Yeah, you might show up for that because it's related to the entity of roofing. But
with no
if
competition,
you have a single competitor with a page about that, that's when they're going to show. They're going to show, okay, that guy actually says he does it, and he's got content.
What's up, guys? It's Nolan and Jason here with Roofing Webmasters.
Howdy.
We're going to talk about a Google algorithmic update.
Big one.
Local search update for roofers. How about that?
There you go.
Because it's relevant for any local company, but we're going to talk about roofers. All right, so Jason, I'll let you go on it.
Okay, so about 3 weeks ago or so, a lot of local SEO people started seeing a whole bunch of changes in local results. And everybody's like, what did Google do? What did Google do? They changed something. Google kind of was silent about it, which they often are. And then they finally admitted they made a major update. And the update was applied just to local listings. It was a thing called neural matching, which is matching words to concepts, and we've touched on this in some of our other podcasts with the entities thing.
Matching words to concepts.
Right.
AKA entity.
Right.
Okay.
And because I got an explanation of this at the conference we went to recently. When they were just looking at keywords, they had like literally trillions of keywords they had to track. But when they do it as entities, then it's just in the millions, because there's only a million concepts to deal with, and then you say all of these words fit within.
So it actually makes it easier for their servers to crunch this data?
Right, yeah. Because the amount of stuff they were having to mess with had gotten so huge that they were hitting a point where they wouldn't be able to handle it. So they found a better way to go about it.
So I was unaware of that. It had literally reached some critical mass.
Yeah, it was in the trillions.
Okay.
Yeah, some ridiculous number. And so you match words to concepts. Now, this is an update. I think I said it, but it was called neural matching. This was an update done to organic results, what we think of as national results, over a year ago. But it didn't apply to local listings, which is the map pack and the sidebar.
I want to say something real quick before we get too deep into it. Please,
okay, go ahead.
Please go forward with the local. We are going to make a point about this. This is really dry stuff here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm interested in it, but yeah, it's
so
a little dry.
all you roofers listening to this, please don't glaze over yet, because this is really interesting stuff, and we're going to explain to you how we take this and make this relevant to you to help you guys show up and mapping. Okay,
right.
Go ahead. Go ahead. This is dry.
So they took this thing
and
they applied it to local results, and what it did is it made, we've been actually touching on this for the past 2 months in our podcast on branding and brand awareness.
LSI,
and
entity
LSI
search.
and all that.
Yeah.
This actually ties into all that very heavily. And this actually...
I don't know if LSI mentioned but
it does, because LSI is built around... The idea of LSI is you have this concept, and then all these words relate to it, and every possible word that means roughly the same thing, and LSI is all about
becomes the entity
synonyms,
or the brand or association.
is associated with the concept. And so all this stuff we've been talking about, getting making sure Google understands your brand, directly ties into all this. And we were already on this train months before the update actually was in effect, because it had been in effect for organic results, so we were already working on it, but now it's applying specifically to the map pack and the knowledge graph.
Right.
And what it is we've talked about this as well before, is the user intent on a search. That was mostly an organic listings thing. Now it applies to mapping and knowledge graph. And this is an interesting one. One of our researchers, our main researcher, a really smart guy, drew this up real quick for us. A contractor associated with a specific service can rank better on maps even if their company name doesn't indicate it. So you no longer have to
Where
worry.
are you on here?
That's number 2 right
Number
there. How
2.
will the
Okay.
impact level?
So
We literally just got
contractors
this from
associated with a specific service can rank better on maps even if their company name doesn't indicate it. Let's slow down and tell. So guys, this gets away even further away from like naming, Oklahoma Roofing Company. Or
that's the point I was exactly
Oklahoma
about to make.
City Roofing
Yeah.
Company. So they're trying not to do that. So Google's gotten, now the keyword stuffing is probably actually going to harm you even more because it's already headed that direction.
Right. Yeah. Now you don't try to put in your primary type of roofing you do in your name. You just say so and so, Bill's Roofing. That's all you need. And the neural matching will understand based on the content you have on your website and the categories you populate in your GMB, the stuff you want to show up
So what
for.
is neural matching? And again, Google says it's an AI-based system. It was primarily to understand related concepts, i.e. entity-based stuff, or LSI. It's like a super synonym system that are closely related, and then they all relate to the topic.
Right.
And now they can take this stuff and crunch it better in order to show people in map ranking. And one could assume that if it wasn't technically, you really don't think of Google in terms of penalty much anymore nowadays. It's really just an algorithm intelligence. So as the algorithm gets more intelligent and better, they're going to just ignore crap and stuff that was meant. And it really, I got to tell you something on a slightly different topic here. It isn't really fair, because it isn't fair because everybody now it's fair for us because we're on, the cutting edge of stuff and know what we're doing and we're making these changes, but it's not fair to a roofer who had to do this because the algorithm wasn't smart enough. So what ends up happening is we go down this road, and it's been this really slow road with Google. It seems to change fast, but a lot of it, when you look at over 15 years or something, it's been really slow. And it's Google's ability for the algorithm to understand things more properly. But because they couldn't, back in the day, you had to link. You had to keyword stuff. You had to name your company with a city.
Yeah, I know 2 guys that started businesses in the last 5 years. That one of them is Fort Worth business type.
Right.
The other one is local business type Fort Worth.
Right.
They chose those names based on keyword volume.
And they're literally going to get penalized.
Yeah,
now.
and they could possibly get penalized for it,
And
or at the very least,
ignored.
They'll lose whatever advantage.
Yeah,
they have.
I'm not going to call it a penalty. I'm going to call it ignoring it.
And now that Fort Worth X is now a very generic term.
Right.
And is difficult to apply directly. It's difficult to brand that term to you anymore.
So notice that we didn't say penalty, and he said they'll lose their benefit for it.
Right.
So because the Google algorithm's getting smart enough to be able to disassociate a company name stuffed with a city with any sort of ranking. I don't know, ranking
it's not
credibility.
Completely gone.
Ranking credibility.
But and it's another one of those things that's sort of graded on a curve. It's based on what your competition is doing. If your competition's doing all the same stuff you are, nothing's going to much change. But if you're smart enough to say call the Webmasters and get it done the right way, then you're going to leave.
So let's segue over to that. So guys, this isn't just keyword stuff domains. This is getting your roofing company recognized as its own brand, and it's an entity in its own right within its category.
Right.
So we move over from okay, Nolan, this is some dry stuff I don't care about, but now we get to something that you really should care about. If you don't, you're going to have trouble. That's your company's brand as it's related from a Google standpoint. So it means that and this is number 4, it means that keyword stuffing is even more out than it was. Mm-hmm. I wonder if this is going to affect, because this is You know who I'm thinking about?
I know you're thinking.
I wonder if this is going to affect some competition of ours on something.
Yes.
I think it very well could. We haven't even...
We're coming for you. You know who you are.
Well, proper
Probably
algorithm
doesn't.
understanding is coming for you. The
Yeah.
Webmasters are being the same great folks we've always been.
Exactly. Yeah, it's literally our research guy gave us this bullet list of stuff, and it's like, we're doing that, we're doing that, we're doing that, we're doing that. We're already doing all of these things. And now all of a sudden the algorithm is saying, yes, good boy, and telling us good job.
Okay, so that means that full-scale SEO branding is more important than ever.
Which we've literally been talking about on podcasts for 2 months.
And I got to tell you something. It's such a new concept to involve branding and with entity and with LSI and with Google Understanding that we're formulating some of the thoughts as we have these podcasts on more proper ways to run this for it. But these things start to, and I'm not even going to read the fifth one yet on here, but these things start to integrate with things like righteous reviews and proper integration of signaling. So the integration of the signaling strengthens the brand. The signaling being reviews from multiple sources around the web, integrated the code base of the signaling in with pictures and captions and
Structured data.
And check-ins, and then all of that synergizing on-site, off-site, related back to Google account.
You used a big word.
That's not a big word. I mean, you still say some that you said one the other day, and I'm like, screw it. I didn't even say anything about it. I didn't want to get involved. I didn't want to look ignorant, you know.
My verbal gymnastics sometimes discombobulate Nolan.
It's funny, and it also makes me look stupid. So, and I don't know, you know, a lot of people get picked on. I've been watching Shark Tank a lot recently, and they like dogged on some Harvard guys in there, just like tore them up and like tell, you know, so. You know,
I worked at an office once where this one dude, he was actually the head of my department.
Yeah.
And it was like he stayed up at night reading a thesaurus. He would use words I didn't know, had never heard of. Not just stuff I don't use in casual conversation.
Right.
But like these, 5-syllable words, and I'm like, I have no idea what that means. One of the vice presidents of the company pulled him aside and says, I do not want to have to hold a dictionary to sit through one of your presentations.
I think you've told me this.
Tone it the hell down.
Yeah. In case y'all don't watch a lot of these, Jason pulls out the words that are every podcast something. He's waiting. He's got his flashcards in his desk drawer in there, and he's like flipping through them like, yes, I'm going to drop some of these.
I'm offended, Nolan. This is simply how I speak.
Right. Anyway, but yeah, so.
I cannot believe you would impugn me in such a way.
The branding on this stuff is just vitally important. We do tons of, listen, there isn't anyone that I'm aware of, I'm sure you can't think of anybody, if you can, that does more branded effort for our clients than we do at Roofing Webmasters.
Right.
We just simply do more branded effort. So if your branding is today, except legitimately, what linking was in 2002.
Right.
Literally, it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, and you can't fake it.
You can't fake it. It has to be done. It can set your SEO and website and web presence on fire, and it's as big as linking was before the algorithm hammered linking, except this isn't against the rules.
Right.
And it can be integrated, and it can be helped to be graded better, thus SEO, branded SEO effort, right?
Right.
It's absolutely fantastic stuff. There's so many little tools that we do to help synergize your brand with Google. We're just talking about a client of ours that we're going to do a whole podcast about.
We're going to do a whole case study thing about him.
The site is less than 90 days old.
60.
Less than 60?
Yeah.
All right, it was.
It launched in early October.
It launched right before my birthday.
Yeah.
In October.
And we're not at the 60-day point. The 60-day point is next week.
Whenever this gets cut or whatever, it's well before Christmas here. We're like 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas. And he's already number one for primary keyword terms and most secondary keyword terms in MapPack. The reason
For, by the way, one of the most sought after keywords in his category.
in his category.
Yeah.
He's a contractor in a market of about 250,000 people, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe more, but around. I'm thinking.
I don't know.
Everybody knows the city in the United States.
Yeah, it's not a small town. It's
a
a decent sized city.
And he's on in Pack 3, and we were talking about this. It's because they're able to take that content away from the national level content and plow that back in through his local map pack.
Thanks to this update. That's actually number 5 on our bullet list here. Contractors must have an online presence that demonstrates all of their services. Number 6 being one factor is having websites that have individual service pages and quality content. Now, we've been content focused for a long time here, as long as I've been with the company. And
painfully so. Y'all don't know how painful.
What we go through.
Can we stop for a second and talk about it?
Sure.
All right, because it'd make me feel better to talk about it. Y'all don't know what we go through here to find quality writers and to manage quality writers to do perfect content for roofers.
Yeah. In the amounts we do it.
You just don't realize what we go through. And I don't, again, there isn't anyone, I challenge anybody to find a site like a Roofing Webmasters site that has stuff full of so much great content. Content's the basis for all keyword search online. It's the basis for map placement on most auxiliary keywords.
Yeah. Every so often over the years, it's a regular occurrence that we get a client that says to us, I don't want so much content, nobody reads it. You know what? I'm not even going to argue whether your customers read it or not. I know that a lot of them actually do, but I'm not even going to try to convince you. Google reads it.
It's the basis for the keyword to show up.
Google reads it.
And the thing that I'm trying to vent about isn't that we don't have great writers. It's that we have to go through lots of bad writers to get to
We have
them.
to find the great writers.
We have to find the great writers. And then if you don't have extremely structured management procedural sets and software to help you with it, you can't manage the people that are in here.
Right.
And it took years and years, and it was ridiculously painful.
Right.
Ridiculously painful. I'm glad to say at this point in time, with the help of Jason, we don't get taken advantage of anymore by people in the office. But there was a point in time that writing was so critical, and we didn't have a hold on it, and we didn't have software to back it up, or basic company processes and standards that we set in place, that we allowed the writing department to take advantage of the company. And guys, I know that at least in your sales department, you've experienced this feeling before. And it's not fun when you feel like you can't have something to say on it, but we have complete control over it at this point in time. Absolute complete control over it. And the writing's absolutely fantastic. It's wrapped in schema code. It's the highest level. It's LSI. It's done at the top level it could possibly be done at. Right? It's thought of with entity. If you haven't had that, we got to have that conversation. Y'all have that conversation about entity thought processes and branding
with the writers.
With the writing.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Jason does
this every Monday morning.
I have a production meeting with my editor and the assistant editor and QA person every morning.
So you could have branded authority. You could have signaling. You could be popping through different channels. But if Google didn't have the content that was really well done, your stinking keywords wouldn't pull up, man.
Yeah. If you have some service you want to show up for and you have no mention of it on your website, they're going to look at you and say, they might, if they don't have anybody else, let's just say that you're in some market and it's some esoteric thing
they're
that
in
you
the Puget,
do.
They're in San Pedro Island or something in Puget Sound or something, or whatever it is. And
it's a roofing related thing, and you're the only roofer there with a decent website. Yeah, you might show up for that because it's related to the entity of roofing. But
with no
if
competition,
you have a single competitor with a page about that, that's when they're going to show. They're going to show, okay, that guy actually says he does it, and he's got.
And it's irrelevant to even make the analogy because there's almost no non-competitive markets anymore.
Yeah.
So the content is absolutely critical. We deserve every great bit of content we get nowadays because we've gone through the ringer to get it to you.
Right.
All right. I'm sorry. I just wanted to stop there. I don't even remember where we were.
But that's the thing that we've been doing.
Contractors must have an online presence that demonstrates all their services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing we've been doing like forever. And like Google has finally acknowledged the work we do.
They have, because they've begun to acknowledge, and we can't tell for sure. They don't tell us, but it's obvious that they're giving some more credibility to schema code.
Right.
That's obvious.
They actually have come out and acknowledged
that they want
and
it,
verified that they want it,
yeah,
and the way they want it done.
You're right.
So they actually have been communicating.
But they haven't
more
said,
in the past year.
if you do schema code, we're going to raise your search rankings.
Yeah.
You
They
know?
actually still claim that schema code is not a direct ranking factor, but
It appears to be.
well, what Google calls a direct ranking factor and what actually affects your rank are two different things.
Yeah. What about
when they say this is not a ranking factor, they have this internal definition of ranking factor that makes what they're saying true, even though for the real world, yeah, it's a ranking factor. It affects where you show up.
It's an indirect ranking factor.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They'll say one thing, and it's like I follow these Googlers online on Twitter, and they'll say stuff, and then you'll have a flood of SEOs come in with data saying, "Nope, you're lying."
Yeah.
And the guy will be, "Well, I can't discuss that." And it's like, okay, yeah, we got you.
Yeah, there was somebody who was subpoenaed at Google and like had to say some stuff. It's some of the only times that they actually admitted stuff because they're under oath.
Yeah.
It's like perjury, it could like get put in jail if they didn't tell the truth. And he's like, had to say this stuff.
Well, okay, yeah, fine.
So one factor, this is number 6 on here, is having websites that have individual service pages and quality content.
Which we've been doing forever.
And
we see it a lot in clients that make the mistake of leaving us. We will see the new website they put up. We had a whole section on this type of roofing with a page for all these varieties.
Yeah.
And they will say, well, we're just going to squish that into one much smaller page. And boom, keywords gone.
Yeah, the one I always bring up for this is TPO. If you have TPO roofing repair, TPO roofing single ply, they're not gonna guess you show up for this stuff. I'm gonna go back to this because this one's a little more confusing. The original, what does the local search update mean for roofers? This was done just this month.
Yeah.
And so this is very recent. And it ties into AI systems determining your branding and entity, and keywords don't show up without content and all that. And then we do things here, and you can do things to help Google trust and understand your brand better and get more authority for your brand.
Right.
Right. And when those things happen, it's happening much swifter and more efficiently now, and is now directly affecting your Google My Business account. That's what we're talking about here.
Right.
And even though this gets a little dry, it's really darn interesting stuff. And here's what else is interesting for me. So if I'm a roofer that's younger, that's trying to get my foot in the door, sorry, my bad. If somebody's trying to get their foot in the door, and guys, again, this has not existed for years. So I'll go back and talk about one more thing on being able to get going.
Right.
To get into pack, it used to be the 7-pack. Was it 7-pack?
It's 10.
10.
Then 7.
Then 7.
Then 3.
Now 3.
Yeah.
But it's always been 10 organics. And that was your organic, which is 75% of search. So let's draw all this back to some stuff so you can understand it. Had you started in the year 2000 and put up a website, and immediately when GMB got going, or Google Places at the time, and you went and grabbed your Google Places account in 05, you might be a rock star just off of tenure, right? The website, the part of the algorithm has to do with tenure and age. It's huge. It used to be bigger. It has diminished, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has
still important.
It's
just
still
not
important, but it has diminished greatly.
Yeah.
And so you didn't, but if you called this company in 2000 and what, I don't even remember, and I would deny you if you had a brand new
2016, just 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, so all the way from around 14 to 15, 16, there was about a 2-year
When
period.
when first went to work for you in 2014, you wouldn't take
I wouldn't take a new client.
Yeah, and it was 3 or 4 years before you started doing it.
There's more to this. That's why I didn't want you all to bow out and not listen to it, because if you're new trying to get started, and then somewhere around 17, Google loosened, or 16 or 17, they loosened up the tenure of the website for a reason for you showing up high in ranking.
Right.
And this was even before Maps was as popular. You guys don't remember that it's only been like 3 or 4 years that Maps have been booming, right? Because reviews only got going like 3 years ago, guys. I know it's been going longer, but
we were hardcore on Maps from my first day with the company, and we were ahead of the curve because other people weren't paying that much attention.
Nobody had reviews.
And that's when it was still a 10-pack.
Nobody had reviews. Like, guys, roofers didn't get serious about reviews until the last couple of years.
Right.
3 years max. Okay, so then you had this happen to where it's like, okay, how do I get my foot in the door? And then so they did loosen up in 2016-ish, and by end of 16, 17, I was doing new.coms again.
Right.
Because I didn't want to go put up a site, which to this day, and I won't promise this because I don't know if it will change, but stick somebody up for $99 and then pay a higher monthly fee, which is a great deal to industry, on a month-to-month, though.
Right.
And I have my clients, at least now, on month-to-month, and then not know, put up a site and it takes a year to get going. I'm not going to do that. So the algorithm loosened up, and then it was like, okay, we can get these up faster. And somebody has a chance to get up and get going with a brand new website within 6 months by 2017-18. But now come 2019, it loosens even more, and they don't say anything, but you can feel it and you can see it.
Yeah.
That a new site by the first of this year was going much better. So this has been 12 months now.
We had started saying 90 days.
90 days.
You might see some. You'll
now
start
the
seeing
industry
some
still
results.
says, because they suck at SEO, 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And they try to talk you into waiting longer, or even they say that.
Or
now,
sign you to a contract.
Sign you on a
12-month
contract.
term.
Oh, wait on your PPC for 6 to 12 months. That's a new one. That's a whole different topic. That's ridiculous. But anyway, and they will talk you into that. But yeah, we can get somebody happy with a pretty new website launch within pretty soon.
The one he mentioned earlier, that we're going to do a case study on, 60 days.
60 days. So now I've
top
dialed
ranking,
forward to
top of Maps on the most valuable keyword they could ask for.
all of them.
Yeah.
All of them in the top 3.
Yeah, the most valuable keyword sort of family.
And he basically had everything he wanted.
Right.
All right. So.
What was I trying to say?
Page.
He was beating people with 100 times as many reviews.
So he had 7.
Yeah.
And there was he was number 1. The number 2 had 58, I think, and number 3 was like 450 something.
Yeah, I had almost 500. So it was like a huge difference, and he was still beating.
So dial forward to this algorithmic update that now has lessened tenure as an ability to move higher, although still counts it,
Yeah.
but allows somebody newer to get going. And then if you're savvy enough to get going with somebody like us and implement in all branding signaling, then all of a sudden you can see yourself pull up quickly, and then compare yourself to somebody. I'm sorry about that.
I didn't know it was that late.
It's already, is it 4 o'clock?
That's what your phone
All right.
did.
So dial this to today, and you get a fantastic website. We talked about this the other day. We do all the high-level, highbrow base stuff. You still have to have that, but then you add another high level, and that's where righteous reviews and integrated features come in. And then everything gets set up properly, and we have an ability for a new site to come pounce on rankings.
Right.
Because this is just the stimulus that just freaks Google out right now. They love this stuff. This was seriously
Freaks out in a good way.
freaks out in a good way. This is like 100,000 links from India in 2001.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. So all of a sudden now you have all this. Now the local search update occurred. Now there's a lessened amount of time on getting into the market, and within a relatively short period of time you had the capability to go up in ranking and get the map placement.
Right. Our researcher makes a point here. Google says that local business should not do anything differently with their website they should just be doing what Google's been saying to do all along. Well, guess what? We have been, but most places haven't. So a lot of local businesses are going to have to go back and do things properly, but we've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
And guys, you have to have integrated features like schema, like righteous reviews, like all this stuff happening. The site we were talking about that on the 60-day had all of that stuff set up by us and was floundering before we, or were they?
no, we read it. We actually.
It was brand new.
Yeah, it was
brand
brand new.
I'm
He
sorry.
hadn't done anything.
I keep thinking it was up before because I had seen his, I don't know where I saw his logo before. Maybe it was on we had revised a logo because they'd gone into a specific specialty, I think.
Okay.
I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Anyway, but yeah, so Google basically says don't do anything. Well, guys,
What they're actually saying
Don't do
is
anything.
do things the way we've been recommending that you do them, which is what we do.
but the problem is that no roofers know what that is.
Yeah.
And all the crappy digital marketing agencies they use don't do it for them.
Yeah. Some of you
So
guys,
you have to have stuff done.
Some of you guys may have now. Some of you, because for some of you guys, it's now your off season and you weren't getting as much traffic anyway for roofers in
Yeah.
some parts of the country. If you're down where we are, it's still 70 degrees. So
67
yeah,
degrees
they're
today,
still
December
working. So
3rd.
some of you guys may have noticed a drop off in traffic. You may have noticed a drop off in calls. You may have called your other less awesome SEO company, and they might have or they might have given you some excuses.
I hear
This is
from
what happened.
yeah. If your map jostled recently.
Yeah. If you used to have good map placement and you dropped off, if you've been seeing fewer phone calls, you might want to look and see if you're still showing.
I mean,
up.
this is like ground floor opportunity to get in on it. I
Right,
feel like I'm
right.
selling something on infomercial, but seriously, this is what
only 50 more spots.
No, seriously though,
Can I get a
guys,
counter at the bottom of
this
the screen?
doesn't come along too often on the algorithm. Agreed with that?
Oh, absolutely.
It's very
is-
rare.
This is actually a very a massive update.
It's a very rare thing that something occurs. It's so that we're seeing such high results on that you can come on and affect your ranking in this manner. This allows for someone to move into placement. And I can't promise any of it. We don't own Google. We've just been seeing people. When we go through and see people using righteous reviews and doing other branded things and integrating properly, their Google Analytics increase is way outweighing what we're seeing with someone that's not partaking in these items.
We can see across all our
Yeah.
clients using the Righteous Reviews platform who is actually using it and who's getting check-ins. And we are able to look and see correlation between who's using it and ranking and number of keywords being tracked and all kind of stuff going up.
So I'm going to recap this, and then I'm tired of talking about it. So the local search update affected things greatly. Even if it didn't affect your business, it allowed you to get in. Guys, this will be like this for years, frankly, because in the roofing category, y'all aren't aggressive enough.
Right.
Not enough of you call. Not enough of you get going well enough. And so this is going to be available for a while. Not enough of you are using integrated features and branding signaling. Not enough of you use a company like Roofing Webmasters. There's just not that many around, right?
Right.
So this is a local search update that changed the way that map packs showed up, having to do with things that they called AI-based learning, which allowed them to look at concepts like super synonym systems such as LSI or latent semantic indexing, and things like keyword stuffed domains, and downgrading things to give more fairness to who showed up, while also pulling in things like branded signaling. And all of that together is an opportunity for
Yeah.
everybody.
I mean, it's
ranking.
when people started seeing the update, before Google admitted there was an update, but people were seeing the result. An SEO expert on Twitter coined it the Bedlam update because it was so chaotic.
Yeah, I
It was
forget
all of a
about
sudden, everything got turned on its head. And
But
that's an
define
opportunity.
bedlam though, because
Bedlam basically means chaos or disorder or
Yeah.
hell or something like that.
okay, because they didn't know what it was, and then Google didn't say they did anything until so many people brought up stuff.
Bedlam is like an ancient term, literally for hell.
Okay, well, I don't know. I would have, I don't know that we had anybody adversely affected by this at all, but
Well, we've been doing all this stuff the whole time. That's the thing.
I
In
would have
fact,
liked
we
to have
probably had a number of our clients probably saw their rankings increase
Right.
even over the good results they were already getting
Yep.
when this went in.
I'm going to call John too about this after I get out of this, just to go over it. But guys, point is, we'd love to help you. This is really great stuff. This is the best opportunity that has existed, in my opinion, in over a decade online.
Yeah.
It's been over a decade. Things were just sticky,
Yeah,
like
when you got that, if you got that top map spot and you had it for a couple of years, you were hard to dislodge.
for years,
Yeah,
man.
it was like we used to get stuff. We'd tell people you need to do this kind of website and this kind of web presence, and they say, "Well, I got this competitor. His website is one page, but it's been up for 10 years, and he's got top of mapping, and nothing we do knocks him off of it."
that stuff's been going
And
for a
that
few
was
years
10
now.
years.
Yeah, that's been,
and we don't hear that so much anymore, and this is going to make it even more rare. Now, the downside is that means that the map pack is going to get more
competitive.
more even than it was, because there's going to be opportunity to move in there.
Again, just to reiterate, not enough of you guys do this stuff.
Right.
You won't pull the trigger to spend any money per month on stuff. We have stuff well below $1,000 to do extremely expert work with people, and so few people do it.
Yeah.
I don't even worry about this, by the way, in case you're wondering, when we go into a market, if there's more than one person doing this.
Right.
Absolutely, no question, there's not more than one person, if one person doing this level of support, because there's just nobody competing with us at this point in time.
Right.
And so they're really, seriously,
Yeah.
I mean, there may come a time where we go through ebbs and flows of innovation where we're way ahead of other people, and it levels out and there hasn't been any other innovation for a year or two. But right now we're way up front,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this sort of integration. You can't get the branded features to integrate as well without a company like ours, because part of it's software related with like reputation management. And that is crap third-party add-ons after the fact, and it doesn't integrate properly.
Right.
And so because of that, I'm done.
It simply doesn't work as well. Let's move on.
I've been watching too much Shark Tank. Because of that, I'm
on
out.
Jim Cornette's podcast this week.
Yeah.
He was trying to wrap it up, and his co-host kept talking. He goes, "Will you just wrap it up? I have to go take a shit."
I don't even know. Who is that? Jim who?
Jim Cornette. He's
Is that
old,
wrestling?
old school wrestling manager.
Okay.
He managed the Midnight Express in the Mid-South. And
Okay.
Jim Cornette, or not Jim Cornette, the WCW and NWA territories back in the day.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm really done. All right. Take it easy, guys.
Take it easy.
We'll see you.